welcome to this episode of Star Wars Declassified, where we look into different facts and stories revolving around the Star Wars canon universe and lore. In today's Declassified, we'll be taking a look at Imperial Invasions, how they happen, why they're always so successful, and its aftermath. When the Galactic Republic was transformed into the Galactic Empire, many of the worlds under Republic control automatically transferred over to the Empire too. But even so, there were still many planets in the galaxy which were either under separatist jurisdiction or simply neutral. And thus, it was the Empire's goal to take over as many of them as possible, especially those planets who were rich with natural resources that the Empire could benefit from. Any planet who resisted Imperial conquest had only one choice: to fight and defend itself. Knowing the might of the Empire, some planets openly agreed to Imperial annexation, all in an attempt to not waste any lives in what was considered an unwinnable battle. However, those who instead decided on the opposite couldn't count on the support from anyone else in the galaxy, and by doing so, any planet resisting Imperial annexation effectively found itself alone in its fight against the Empire. For many, especially the alien worlds, it was better to go out and die for freedom than submit to a tyrannical human supremacist regime who was xenophobic against anyone non-human. As expected, the Empire had no qualms for invading any world who didn't agree upon annexation. In doing so, the Imperial Invasion strategy for these hostile planets was carried out in response. The Imperial Army, whose primary goal was establishing imperial regimes and pacifying troublesome worlds, were always sent to the hostile planets first. The army would then mobilize its soldiers, which acted as the main attacking force. Armed to the teeth, army soldiers had access to an extensive arsenal, which included the E-10, E-11, and E-22 blasters, SX-21 scatter blasters, DLT-19 heavy blaster rifles, and sidearms such as the EC-17 holdout blaster. It should also be pointed out that the Imperial Army soldier design itself takes inspiration from the World War II German uniform, all the way down to the red Nazi armband in order to symbolize how planetary defense forces viewed the Imperial Army. In addition to its main attack force of army infantry, Imperial stormtroopers acted as the elite reinforcements during the invasion, whose presence was generally seen in order to bolster Imperial effectiveness during battle. During the later days of an invasion, army squadrons would spread out to cover more ground, and usually be accompanied by an Imperial probe droid, as this would allow for them to be notified if they were going in the right direction while in unfamiliar territory, but as well scan the area for any possible guerrilla insurgents, and if so, prevent sneak attacks. Along with the infantry, AT-DTs, AT-STs, and air support provided by both the Army and Navy was used to further pressure defense forces. On the ground, AT-STs were the primary assault vehicle that fought alongside the army on the front lines. Their main job was to take out the opposition's troops and vehicles. Meanwhile, AT-DTs were used behind the first couple of attack waves. Due to their long-range support, they were instrumental in destroying enemy defense towers, buildings, and artillery. Both AT-STs and AT-DTs were carried into the war zone using AT-haulers controlled by the Army. For air, the Army Air Corps would always first deploy its air forces to help support infantry in the opening phase of the battle, sending down TIE Strikers to pick off ground defenses wherever possible. If needed, the Navy would then follow up by providing important reinforcement with waves of TIE bombers and fighters if the TIE Strikers weren't enough, especially if the defending world had starfighters of its own. Imperial base camps would be set up in every sector that had been successfully taken over. These mobile camps would be quick to set up and then pack up when needed. They contained the troop barracks, airfields, logistical facilities, and as well med centers. Imperial Mobile Surgical Units, or IMCUs, were collapsible med shelters that served as a combination of a doctor's office and operating room for Imperial medics and droids. They treated a range of issues like dehydration, microbial infections, and trench foot, as well the usual perils of battle. To make matters worse, the Empire also made sure to cut off the supply chain of any additional resources a hostile planet were obtaining from other worlds. Using attrition warfare along with blitzkrieg tactics of combined ground and air forces was always enough to shut down any resistance, no matter what the planet. Once a hostile planet was successfully captured after a forced takeover, the army soldiers would then slowly depart, sent off to another planet set to be invaded. The Empire in turn would replace them with the Stormtrooper Corps, who then would be in charge of policing and defending the newly occupied planet in the name of the Empire. In addition to normal stormtroopers, patrol troopers were also deployed to be the main rapid response policing force within urban environments. Their job was primarily to cover distances across sprawling settlements and cities, policing streets aboard their swift CPH patrol speeder bikes, arresting any lawbreakers. However, for more organized crime and even rebel cells, it was then the job of the Imperial Stormtroopers who acted as the military police force of the planet. Unlike patrol troopers, Stormtroopers could enforce Imperial laws in greater numbers, along with having access to better equipment and weapons. And if needed, especially against larger insurrections, Stormtrooper military police could call in ATDP reinforcement, which acted as the primary Imperial vehicle in keeping the populations of occupied worlds in line, along with of course combating insurgent forces. And that'll do it for this episode. If you enjoyed what you saw, please like and share it, along with subscribing to the channel to not only support it, but keep up with Star Wars news, gaming, and canon lore released every week. And consider following me on Twitter and Facebook to never miss out on the latest Star Wars related content. And if you want to further support the channel, then check out our Patreon page to become a Knight of Silo, or click the YouTube join button to join the Silo fleet. Or if you want to continue the conversation, then join us on the official Silo Discord server. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.